There is a difference between power that was earned and power that was borrowed. The person who earns their power knows exactly what it cost. They carry the memory of the cost in the way they walk, the way they listen, the way they treat a room they walk into. They are not careless with it. And that knowledge makes them, if they are the right kind of person, humble. And then there is borrowed power. Power that arrived through a last name, through a marriage, through the decision to stand close enough to someone who had it that some of it started to feel like theirs. Borrowed power is always, underneath everything, afraid. Afraid that someone will notice that the account it's drawing from belongs to somebody else. Afraid that if the room shifts, if the wrong person asks the wrong question at the wrong moment, all of it will be revealed for what it always was. The woman who sat across from me that afternoon had borrowed so long that she had forgotten the original transaction. She had borrowed it from a man whose name was on a Senate seat, and she had walked in the light of that name for so long that she had come to believe she was the one generating it. I have been a black man in America for 67 years. I know what borrowed power looks like when it feels threatened. I know what it sounds like when it needs to remind itself, out loud, in front of witnesses, that the arrangement is still in place. But I did not know, when she walked out onto my stage, what she was carrying underneath it. I did not know the wound she had been building her entire personality around. I found out. But not until after everything else had already happened. Today I want to tell you 3 things. I am going to tell you who Margaret Halstead was and what she believed walking onto that stage entitled her to. I am going to tell you exactly what she said and the one sentence I said back, one complete thought, spoken into a live microphone in front of 270 people, that made her stop. And I am going to tell you what happened in my producer's office 40 minutes after the taping ended. Because that is where the real story is, and it is not the story I expected to be telling. If you have ever watched someone use a title, not their own title, a borrowed one, to make another person feel like they do not belong in a room they built from nothing, subscribe to this channel right now and turn on that bell. Because what I am about to tell you is about the most dangerous kind of power there is, and about what happens when someone who has spent their whole life borrowing it finally gets asked to give it back. Subscribe, then don't you move. It was a Tuesday. February, midwinter, Los Angeles. My stage manager, Jerome, 7 years with me. The kind of man who has the instincts of someone who has spent 30 years in television and the patience of someone who has spent 40 years being black in it, which is a specific and valuable combination. Jerome came to my dressing room 5 minutes before we taped. He did not knock. He opened the door and leaned in the frame with the particular expression he wears when he has something to say that he knows I am not going to want to hear. He told me that the woman in Family Seat 2 had introduced herself to the production staff as the wife of Senator Harold Halstead of Tennessee. I said, I know who Harold Halstead is. Jerome said, she mentioned it 4 times in 20 minutes. To 4 different people, including the person who handed her a bottle of water. I asked him, how's the family? He said the daughter was 24 years old. A social worker from Nashville. She had arrived 40 minutes early, by herself, in a car that was not new, in clothes that were clean and pressed, and had been pressed with care. She had brought a notebook. He said she had been sitting in the green room writing in it while the rest of the family arrived. He said when Margaret Halstead walked in, the daughter had closed the notebook and put it in her bag and not taken it back out. I asked him, is the daughter all right? He looked at me. He said, that's the right question. Lord forgive me. I let it go. When the Halstead family walked out, Margaret walked out first. She was 58 years old. Blonde hair that costs money to maintain. A dress in deep burgundy chosen with attention and worn with the expectation of being photographed. Pearl bracelet, the small, expensive kind, the kind you wear for the people who know what they're looking at. A posture that added 2 inches to her height and communicated, without a single word, that she was accustomed to entering rooms first and being noticed for it. She shook my hand and held it a half-second too long. Not warm. Not arrogant. The other thing, the kind of handshake that is gathering information. Deciding, in that half-second of hold, where you fit in the arrangement. Her husband was not there. No explanation offered. Her son Preston, 31, worked in the senator's office, was there moving through the world as an extension of his father's brand, his facial expressions trained into smooth diplomatic blankness that gives nothing away. And then, the daughter. Lily, 24 years old. Social worker. Nashville, she walked out with her chin at an angle that was not quite up and not quite down. The angle of a person who has learned through long practice how to be present without drawing attention. A face that should have been glowing, first time on national television, something worth celebrating. But wasn't. She had shadows under her eyes that were not from the flight. The kind of shadows that accumulate over time, from the specific exhaustion of being in close proximity to something that takes more than it gives. She looked at me when she walked out. Not at the cameras, not at the audience. At me. The kind of look that is just checking. Checking whether the room is safe. Whether she can breathe here. I wanted to stop the taping right then. Something in my gut said, stop, there is something important happening in this room. I did not stop. I told myself what professionals tell themselves. God forgive me. I let it go. We started playing. Lily was brilliant. I do not say that word carelessly. Lily Halstead was brilliant. She was fast, and she was sharp, and she thought sideways, the way people think who have spent their careers listening to what people don't say and figuring out what they mean, which is what a social worker does every hour of every working day, and which turns out to be exactly the skill that wins a game built on predicting what a survey says. She hit the buzzer. She got 3 number 1 answers in the first 8 minutes, and on the 4th question she turned to me and said, "Not to the camera. To me, I knew that one." My clients answer that question every day. And something happened in my chest that I can only describe as recognition. The recognition of someone who sees a person clearly for the first time. The crowd was with her, completely, fully with her. The genuine response of a group of people who have recognized something real and want to be near it. For those few minutes, I watched Lily's shoulders come down from where they had been living all morning. I watched her face open. I watched her laugh at something Preston said, and the laugh was real. The full kind. The kind that happens before a person remembers to manage it. For those few minutes, Lily Halstead was simply alive in that room in a way that it was clear she was not always allowed to be. Margaret Halstead was watching her daughter. She was watching the crowd watch her daughter. And I saw the exact moment the calculation happened. The exact moment Margaret's smile recalibrated, not away from warmth, toward something that wore warmth like a coat over something colder. When Lily called a number 1 answer and the board lit up, Margaret said to the camera, "She's always been good at this kind of thing. Guessing, not guessing." Knowing, there is a difference the audience understands even when they cannot name it. The first direct comment came during a pause in play. Margaret looked at me. She said, "You know what I appreciate about this show? It doesn't pretend to be something it isn't. It's fun. It's light. It's a pause, the kind that is not thought. It is aim. It's exactly the right level." I said, 16 years of exactly the right level. She smiled. She said, "Of course. I just mean, for what it is." Then, turning toward the nearest camera, "Harold always says television is a mirror. It shows you who's in the room." She said it looking at me. Not at the audience. At me. Step 1. Veneered in opinion. Untouchable. The second thing came when we returned from break. During the break, one of the production crew, a young woman, early 20s, had passed behind the Halstead family row, and Margaret had reached out and touched her on the arm. Not to get her attention, she had the cup already. She touched her the way you touch furniture that is in your way. Lily had seen it. I had seen Lily see it. When we came back, Margaret looked at me and said, without preamble, into the live microphone, "I hope you don't mind me being direct, Steve. I think directness is a form of respect. And I want to say that I find it interesting that this is what passes for hosting today." The audience shifted. Not sound. Not motion. Just the collective adjustment of people who have heard something that cannot be classified as entertainment, but cannot yet be classified as anything else. Lily's notebook was in her bag. Her hands were in her lap. Folded. Still the kind of still that takes practice. Step 2. Direct, broadcast, visible to everyone. Before I tell you what Margaret Halstead said into a live microphone that went out to every home tuned to that broadcast, drop one word in the comments right now. Just one word. Tell me what you would have said back. Drop it and keep watching. Because the sentence I chose was not the first one I reached for. It was the one I found at the bottom, underneath everything else, and I believe it was put there for me to find at exactly this moment. She looked at me. She took a breath the way a person takes a breath when they are about to say something they have been thinking for a long time. And she said, "I want to be honest, because I think honesty matters here. Steve Harvey is a joke. He has always been a joke, and the only reason he is sitting in that chair is that someone decided that this audience," she gestured wide toward the seats, "this particular audience doesn't require something more. I mean no disrespect to anyone here. I'm simply saying what I believe Harold would say if he were in this room. Standards matter. And some rooms have stopped holding to them." She sat back. She folded her hands. 270 people. Not a sound. Dead silence. Not the silence of people being careful. Not the silence of an audience deciding how to feel. The absolute silence of 270 people who have just heard something said so clearly, so fully, with so little attempt at disguise, that there is no interpretation required, and there is nothing left to fill in, and the only thing left is the silence itself. Lily had not moved. She was looking at the floor with the expression of someone who has been here before, who has been in this exact room, in every sense, more times than she can name, who is very, very tired. Preston had placed both hands flat on his knees and gone so completely still that he looked like a photograph of himself. The production assistant at camera 2 set down his cue card. He didn't put it on a surface. He let it fall from his hand. It drifted to the floor, and he did not pick it up. Margaret Halstead sat with her hands folded and the practiced smile maintained and waited for the room to confirm the arrangement. 9 seconds. 9 seconds of standing on that stage in front of 270 people and a live broadcast. The first thing I felt was not anger. It was something older than anger. The thing that is underneath anger, the thing that anger is built on top of so that you do not have to feel the thing itself. 67 years of that thing. 67 years of rooms in which a version of what Margaret Halstead just said was communicated. In a look, in a pause, in a price, in a door that didn't open. And I had built 40 years of comedy and 16 years of this stage, piece by piece, on top of that thing. And I also knew in the second, and the third exactly what I could do to Margaret Halstead on live television with a microphone in my hand. I could destroy her. Completely, surgically, in a way that would travel. I could take that smile apart piece by piece, and by the time I was finished there would not be a room in Tennessee that would have her back. And then I looked at Lily. My father spent 31 years doing a job that paid him in exhaustion and not much else. He did it without complaint. He did it because the people he loved needed him to. He was not a man who talked about himself. But one afternoon when I was 16 years old and had said something cruel out loud, in the house, he looked at me across the room and he said, "Son, the size of a man is not what he says when he has all the power. It is what he says when he has it and could use it badly and chooses not to." He did not raise his voice. He looked at me once, for a long time, and then he went back to what he was doing. I have measured myself against that sentence my whole life. I looked at Lily Halstead, 24 years old. Social worker. The notebook in her bag that she had put away when her mother walked in. The face that should have been glowing, looking at the floor. The hands folded in her lap with the stillness that takes years of practice to learn. She was the most important person in that room. She had been the most important person in that room from the moment she walked in. I made a decision. I did not raise my voice. I did not look at the cameras. I did not point. I did not step toward Margaret Halstead. I did not move toward her at all. I turned to face her where she sat, and I looked at her. The kind of look that is not performance, that is simply the full and complete seeing of a person, and I said, in a voice that was even and unhurried, "I built everything I have from nothing. Mrs. Halstead, what did you build?" One sentence. Not loud. Not sharp. Not delivered for the cameras. One sentence spoken the way you speak something that is simply true and has always been true and does not need to be argued. Margaret Halstead's smile went. Not slowly. Not gradually. Gone, and what was underneath it? I want to tell you what was underneath it, because this is the part I have thought about most in the months since. What was underneath it was not fury. It was not embarrassment. It was grief. The kind of grief that lives in a person who has spent decades building an identity on top of a wound they never healed and has just watched, in public, the scaffolding come down. Bare and sudden and irreversible. Her eyes filled. She did not cry on stage. She was too practiced for that. But her hands unfolded, and she looked, for the first time since she had walked out in that burgundy dress, she looked like a person. Not a position. Not a performance. A person. I set the microphone down. I did not wait for her to recover. I walked to the other end of the family row, and I crouched down in front of Lily, and I said, quietly, "Only for her, that notebook in your bag. The one you put away when she walked in. Get it back out. Whatever is in it belongs to you. Don't put it away again." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she reached into her bag, and she put the notebook on her knee. And she held it there, both hands around it, not opening it, just holding it. The room did not erupt. It did not cheer. It came into a different kind of silence. Not the silence of shock, the silence of something settling. The kind of silence a room finds after a window has been opened and the air has changed, and everyone in the room knows the air has changed and is breathing it without needing to name it. Then someone began to applaud. Then, everyone. Not for the show, for Lily. If you are still with me, share this video right now with one person who needs to know that the most powerful thing in any room is not the loudest voice in it. One share. Then, come back. Because what happened in my producer's office is something I only heard about afterward, and it told me something about borrowed power that I had not fully understood before. 40 minutes after we wrapped, my producer Diane, 22 years in television, not easily moved, found me in the corridor and said, "Margaret Halstead is in my office. She is asking to see you. She said it has to be in person, and she needs you to know she is not asking for anything. She is asking to give something." I walked to my dressing room, and I sat down, and I said, out loud, "To no one, Lord, put the right response in me." Then I walked to Diane's office. Margaret Halstead was sitting in the chair across from Diane's desk. She had taken off the pearl bracelet. It was in her hand, not on her wrist. She had been crying, not recently, but the signs were there. The slight puffiness, the careful stillness of a face that has recently held something. She was not wearing the smile. She stood when I walked in. She said, "I'm not going to ask you to accept this. I don't have the right to ask you that. But I need to say it." She stopped. She looked at the bracelet in her hand. Then, back at me. What I said on that stage was something I have said in different ways, in different rooms, for my entire life. And no one has ever asked me what I built. No one has ever. She stopped again. I married Harold when I was 22 years old. I have spent 36 years being Harold's wife. I have been in every room Harold has ever been in, and somewhere along the way, I stopped knowing what I knew on my own. I stopped knowing what I could do that was mine. And when I don't know that, I fill it with the other thing. I know that now. But I didn't know that I knew it until you said one sentence in front of 270 people, and the sentence was true in a way that I couldn't argue with. There was no audience, no camera, no senator's name in the room. There was only a 58-year-old woman holding a pearl bracelet and saying something true that had cost her something real. I told her I heard her. I told her the absolution she might be looking for was not mine to give, because what she had said on that stage had caused real harm to her daughter, who had been absorbing real harm for a long time before that stage. I told her the conversation she needed to have was not with me. I told her the name was Lily. She nodded. The kind of nod that is not agreement. It is weight. The weight of something being received. She left. I do not know what happened when she found Lily. I only know that Lily called the show's production office 8 days later and left a message. Dennis read it to me. It said, "Tell Mr. Harvey that I got the notebook back out. And that I think things might be okay. I think things might actually be okay." 8 days. A 24-year-old woman with a notebook she had put away when her mother walked into the room. 8 days, and she got it back out. So let me come back to where I started. There is a difference between power that was earned and power that was borrowed. And here is what I have understood since that afternoon. Borrowed power is not the disease. It is the symptom. The disease is the question underneath. What did I build? What is mine? Who am I without the name, the bracelet, the title that belongs to someone else? And when a person cannot answer that question, when they have spent decades not answering it, they fill the space with borrowed light. And borrowed light needs shadows to look bright against. And you know, and I know, whose shoulders those shadows fall on. There are Margarets everywhere, people who have not built something of their own and who need, desperately, for the people who have to be made smaller. They are in every industry, every city, every room you have ever walked into. You may be sitting across from one right now. And there are lilies everywhere. Young people with notebooks in their bags and brilliance they have learned to put away when the wrong person walks in. People who have been told, in 1,000 different ways and for a very long time, that what they know and what they see and what they are building does not belong in the room. You know them. You might be one. Do not let them put the notebook away. Do not stand at the back of the room and watch it happen. The feeling in your gut that says this person is being diminished right in front of me and I am the one standing here, that feeling is not a distraction. It is a direction. Follow it. Say the true thing, even one sentence, even quietly, even if it just means crouching down in front of someone and saying, "That notebook is yours." Get it back out. Don't put it away again, because that is the thing, after all of this, that I keep coming back to. Not the sentence I said to Margaret. Not the silence, not the applause. The notebook. Lily got it back out. If this story reached you, if Lily's notebook reached you, do 3 things before you go. Subscribe to this channel, because every week we come back here to tell the stories that happened in green rooms and producers' offices and corridors outside dressing rooms, the ones that never made a headline, the ones that are truer than anything that did. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss a single one. Share this video with one person you love. Not for me, for every Lily who is sitting in a room right now with something brilliant in their bag that they have been told, directly or indirectly, loudly or quietly, to put away and keep away. And drop a word in the comments for Lily. One word. Whatever this story gave you, put it there. Because somewhere she might read it, and she needs to know that the room she walked into that Tuesday in February, in the good clothes she pressed with care, was a room full of people who saw exactly who she was. God bless Lily Halstead. God bless every person who is carrying something true that the world keeps trying to make them put away. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. I'll see you in the next one.